Hello, Shanti. It's so good to see you. And I'm extremely grateful that you will be on my podcast, Hot Topic Bold Talk. And I think we have a lot of good things that we can talk with each other about. I do want to mention to the listeners that you and I did a wonderful podcast in 2024, and they can look on my podcast list and find it again, because it's a Shanti Gilbert and Dr. Jackalyn Rainosek. And we talk about our history and how we got together. So I also want to mention to the listeners too, Shanti gave me some wonderful articles that are going to help us talk about things today. And I will be certain that I give you references. But I think what we're really going to be talking about today is we live in a world that is chaotic and it creates difficulties for us. And I know when I look at my news feeds that I look at every morning, then there's always something else that's happened that can be disturbing to me, or I can be grateful that some action has been taken to prevent some harmful things or so forth. But I'd really like for you to start us out and start talking about things we've learned to be able to really do something about centering ourselves, because I think it's very hard in the world we're living in. So please start.
Okay, so there's a process you and I do share of clearing that I would like to speak into. And some of the, let me just share some of the other things as well. Having an altar, having cards, like different decks of cards. It doesn't have to be tarot. There's all kinds of thought patterns, Ganesha, who overcomes obstacles, the resistant rebel, medicine woman cards, etc. I think finding some time every day to have an altar that have things of value for yourself, as well as taking time to do that, tuning into yourself to know how you're feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I think picking cards and making the room to have that so that there's a base of self before going out to interact with anybody else. I mean, that makes it easier to have something to be with, as opposed to being at the effect of all of the news feeds and the media and anybody else who calls you or something out of place, etc. Is to really start every day. And I think important, as well as food and exercise and making room for that self to show up and to feel grounded in the day, because each day is a new day. And then the other becomes how we can make our community, little communities in our own bubbles of sharing with people, that gives us a support for our value systems. And then it becomes easier to go outside of those value systems and hear others' opinions, because you know that you have what you have and you're supported for it. So,
Thank you. Well, one of the things that strikes me that I want to be sure and emphasize with our audience is that one of the things I appreciate immensely about Shanti is she spent years studying the Native American culture. So she can bring in unique things that I have no knowledge about. And then I come from the psychology world, but it's certainly emotional processing and many other things. I think one of the things that you and I do every time we get on to be able to know where we are is to do clearings. So I guess the best way I can describe clearings is it's when I tell you how I feel physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Then if you know that, then you know where I am and you can be present with that. Then I know where you are and there's no confusion. Now, today, we're not going to have a cold or something like that. But if I had something and I said physically, I feel exhausted and tired, and emotionally, I feel disturbed that I have a cold, and we'll show you all four parts of it, then you would know where I am and you could have the empathy and the understanding that if I'm off base, then, I'm just not there. So why don't we go ahead and do what we always do anyway? You start first and do your clearing.
okay. So physically, I feel alive and animated, and in the sense that I did my workout today, and I did pick my cards this morning, and I did have time to be with myself and jump in my pool, and eat a really wonderful breakfast. And emotionally, I'm feeling older since I had a birthday yesterday. So
Happy
uh,
birthday.
and so emotionally, I'm a couple places. I'm very excited because I had a great day and another solar return of the sun, and people connected to me, which made me feel really good. And I'm also looking at the number that I have, and I've been feeling that it's a large number. So
You're talking about your age?
my age, yeah, no,
Yeah.
75. Yeah, so it just hit me. That particular number just hit me. So I've been working a lot emotionally to digest that and feel okay. And mentally, I also, with having had a birthday and doing that, I feel clear, and I feel present to be able to listen as well as speak into my ideas and things. And I also am really proud of myself spending a week to digest moving through the program I had of what 75 would look like when I was like 10 years old and looked at people that were 75 years old. So even though the numbers there, I mentally feel really wide open to be who I am and to enjoy that. And spiritually, I feel very guided. I have there's a couple of angels that are present that come and hang with me when I do my work, and I also have a medicine woman doctor that does show up when I do energy work with other people. So, and I'm feeling very connected to those sources and to my own spiritual commitment to being present for that.
Thank you. That's very impressive. And one of the things I want to say is you don't look 75 and I don't look 82. And I'm going to be shortly advancing to 83.
Mm.
So I think the exciting thing about us is we've spent a lot of time, and that's the reason we want to share a lot of things about ourselves and what we've done. So physically, I feel energized. I just taught a course that I haven't taught before, and I started this morning, and it worked like a charm. And so I'm really excited about having done that. And then the emotionally, I feel grateful that I met you many, many years ago,
Mm.
because yours and my friendship is one of the most growth producing things that I've ever done in my life. And I love the fact that we can look back 50 years and know who we were then and now who we are now. And what a tremendous blessing. Mentally, I feel very stimulated about what we're going to talk about today, and very thankful to you because you sent me two good articles that I could kind of start thinking. And okay, now I've got some idea about what we could do. So thank you, Shanti, because I didn't find stuff in the public media, and you found something was that, and I will give those references. And then spiritually, I feel connected and amazed at how I can live in the present today and be grounded. It doesn't mean that I don't get off course when I read something, that is disturbing. But I am able to ground myself. So I think that's what I find so valuable about the clearings as well. And I do it several times a day. I do it with all my clients, and all my friends now know what clearings are. And so we do them when we sit down so we'll know who we are. And I just think it's very valuable. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about what you see the benefits have been for you with clearings.
Well, I think it's a structure that gives a focal point to look at, the four the four concepts that we're talking about, which is physical, emotional, mental, and spirit, are really how I do lots of groups and work from that place to really just give headings so that people have, myself as well as others in interacting, have a place to really ground themselves, their feelings and their emotions, and their thoughts, to be a place to just check in with yourself. So I think that's been the biggest benefit of that is to have a structure to go back to, that what you're feeling is different each time, even during the day, it could changes each time, and yet it's the structure can stay the same. So
Thank you. And I think the reason I want to do it is I started many years ago being more in my thoughts than my feelings. And I began to realize that I reacted out of my feelings and created conflict. And so I had to learn how to pause and process through my feelings, which is something you're very gifted in. And I had to learn how to do that. And so I do the clearings because it has increased my ability to be emotionally connected.
awesome.
So yeah, I'm in a different place today where it's natural for you to know what you feel. I think first and then feel. But I think that's true of a lot of people that are going to be listening to us. You can learn how to do that. And emotions speak the truth. If I'm genuine in the way I express my emotions, then that is my truth. And ideas are debatable. So that's where we can get into discussion. I like your idea of community because I think that's something that in this crazy world we're living in, I think it is very helpful to have community. So talk to me about your community and then I'll talk about mine.
Sure. Okay. So I live in Florida, and I've been here for now, it's probably about 16, 17 years from living in Sedona, Arizona, for what I call as my earth school place, because it was so that the focus there was spiritual. So I had major feeling family and nurturing, and did get to study a lot about Native American traditions as well as art traditions, etc. So I think having for myself, even though I know we're born alone and we die alone, and we have to do this world that we come into, I think having others that we can share our feelings and opinions with, and be listened to, be witnessed and listened to without anybody having to problem solve for us, is something that is so valuable and necessary and needed. There's so many times that I know in my life and working with other people that they're so used to somebody problem solving for them, as well, or coming up with a solution. And a lot of times, really important is just being able to be witnessed in whatever it is that you're going through, and being validated. So for me, building community is to make safe space that people feel comfortable sharing their feelings and their opinions. And so I've worked the 16, 17 years here by going and attending programs first in the community, and then building like-hearted, like-minded souls that are around, and
Yeah.
I use my home to do a new moon drum circle for women every month. And I have something called Shift Happens a couple times a month, where it's for people that are in this field of whether it's psychology or practicing spirit traditions, or just on the path of discovery, and working with a meditation and ways that people can feel comfortable sharing, giving them a little bit of a toolkit to be able to do that. And then there's a group that we have every other week, a Reiki circle, and get together. So those are the three core places that community builds. There are different players that come, but there's probably a core group. And it's been invaluable as I've gone through changes in my life and other people go through changes, to have somebody to reach out to, or to know that you're going to gather and there's safe space to share from your heart, and also share your opinions.
Thank you. And what I was thinking about is that for my community, you're a part of it. I know that you have friends all over the world that come in and help you with your Native American work and things. And so I think I have a much larger community like you do, that I have people in various parts of the United States, but also in Canada and in other parts of the world. So I have a different perspective about things.
Mhm.
Also, I think there's something else that I try very hard to do is to put in my community people that have different points of view, however, are willing to talk about those different points of view and then find commonality. So one of the things, Shanti, that I'm really excited about is I have a close friend that'll I'm going to do something in April with him because he is truly a conservative. I'm certainly more liberal, but we have such commonality and such common values. And so it's exciting to find ways to do that with people that have different points of view. And I know you have different points of view in all your groups. I think the thing for me about community is mine is in the recovery community. You know, I've been working in, I have a PhD in counseling psychology, and I've worked in the field of addiction for many years, but I belong to recovery programs. And so it's like I'm going to be going to one meeting today at noon after we finished these comments. And it's a place where I have an identity and I have a focus of changing myself and doing what I can do to grow and to be the person that I believe that I am today. And I've spent years doing that because I've been in recovery in 2 or 3 programs that I've been in for over 37 years. So that's where I can't imagine not going to those meetings because that's who my friends are, and they're another part of my family. And then I think the other thing is that my business partner and I, also, she happens to be my spouse because we've been together for 30 years. But Liz and I have created also in our work weekend experiences where people can come together and start learning what community really is. And they learn how to process their feelings, they learn how to address their issues, to really go through and be heard. I love the word you had, witness, because we have places where people process their feelings and the person sitting with them is a witness, nothing else. They're not there to analyze or to do anything but to share their own experience, strength, and hope. I think the other thing I would say too is that I grew up as an only child, so I needed to develop a family, and I learned to do that growing up because we lived in West Texas, and those of you that are listening, you got to realize this is in the 40s and 50s. So it was very hard to get from Odessa, Texas to, say, Dallas or Fort Worth or any of those places where the rest of the family lived. So we had 5 families that came together. And so I learned through that, Shanti, how to have family. And it was the same 5 families every year. Now, I'll have to tell a funny story about my mother. She was a Bible scholar and was an outstanding teacher in the First Baptist Church of Odessa. Very liberal woman, but, she really studied her Bible. And she had over 200 people in her class because it was such a large church. So every time we'd have a holiday, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, she'd always find somebody that didn't have a place to go for Thanksgiving or Christmas. So they got invited to our 5 family gathering. However, mother got so enthusiastic about it, they finally limited her to 4 people. She could bring 4 more people. But what that taught me was how to build my own family. So I'm very proud of my son. He and I adopted each other when he was 23. So he has 2 moms, which he thinks is wonderful. And then, I have friends that come at Thanksgiving and Christmas. that are a part of my community, that are more closer part of my community. And we come together, and they're not related to me, but they are related in the sense that they are the chosen family I have. So I think there are a lot of ways to do that. And I think what I know about family is when I get disturbed about something's happening, I can always call you and say, okay, I've had it. What can
Mhm.
we do about talking about this? We've got to, and then you'll just talk, listen, and we'll talk through whatever it is. You can do the same with me, but you have friends that you could do the same thing with.
Mhm.
There are a number of my recovery friends that I would also talk with. So I think that's powerful. I think one of the things you do in your community that's so outstanding is building altars and like using the cards and so forth. And I have cards. I've got to get them back out because I
Yeah.
think it's always interesting. So why don't you talk some about that,
Okay.
about how the cards help us focus, and then also how the altars make a difference if people want to do something like that.
I think the biggest thing is in a house, especially if you're not living alone and there are others there, to have some space that's just your own. And so to me, an altar could be your nightstand. It could be, in a room. It could be a little table that you put out someplace as a place to go. But it's just for the self. And getting a little, some kind of a cloth, it could be like a scarf kind of thing that might have some meaning that you pick up. And on that, putting if there are stones or meaningful items for you to have that remind you of the power that there's more than just us together. So it could be a crystal, it could be a heart, it could be, or it could be a candle that you light. So making that space that's yours, that's just really yours, and then picking a deck. And I'm the queen of decks. When people come and stay and visit me, they're always bringing me a new deck of cards. I must have 35, 40 at least, of decks of different cards. But what I like with them is that just picking that and seeing what it says, inevitably, it's exactly right on where somebody's at. Usually
Mm-hmm.
when I do work with energy work with people, we talk first, talk to get to the intentions, and then pick a card before I put them on the table to do the energy work. It's always spot on with what is going on for that moment. And so to get affirmed from a card, from a deck, from some information that's outside yourself is it's really a fabulous, exciting way to go, to look at. And for me in the day, like I have my next door neighbor and I we pick a couple decks for like 6 months and we exchange what we've gotten every day. So not only are we doing it for ourselves, but we have somebody listening to see what's up. Like, and
That's great.
today we both picked the same card from the same deck, and so it's like, oh, okay, that's really important for both of us today. But anyway, it's a fun way to get your mind off of the news and off of the day, off of your work, and just to focus on the purpose of yourself for the day, as opposed to the list of things we always have to check off, whether it's making your bed or shopping or working and all the tasks or news or getting that done. This is just for the self, and it's really joyful. It's really a fun way to spend the morning. Yeah.
All right, I want to ask you because I do want to mention something before I ask you a question. I One of the things that Liz has found that I really enjoy is on Amazon you can get boxes of cards, just little small things, and they're not exactly the card that you're talking about, but I just want to mention them because in that there are boxes of cards to thank you, there are boxes of cards to describe all kinds of things. And what I do is sometimes in my board meetings or in my meetings where I have people coming together, I have them choose cards and then we talk about where it is because it's another way of describing who we are. Now, your cards are more in depth. Now, I used to do the I Ching, so I probably will have to consider going back and doing that. But it's not a card process. But why don't you talk about what are the two or three favorite card sets that you would say, Hey, if you want to start something like this, these were the two or three that I would recommend.
Okay. Um, I'm just trying to. Ganesha is a deck of cards, and Ganesha is the god of overcoming obstacles. And every house in India has, and he's an elephant, and there's he's there to help. And so I have a deck of cards that have a different concept. It's probably 55 cards, and you pick one, and wonderful pictures of Ganesha in different formations. But also today I got generosity. And then there's a little blurb on what generosity is. So it made me feel, okay, this is a day to really be giving away and to be sharing in that way. So that's one card that I really like. And then there's an ancestors and angels deck that has both guardians, and then it has like famous, whether it's the sage or the high priestess, or they just have different archetypes there. And then they also have the archetypes of the summer, and then they'll have eagle and some birds and things. Drum is another archetype. And so picking those, they have information about that. So those two I really love to pick every day.
Now, where do I get them? Because I don't have either one of those. I have lots of others, but not those two. So
I'll have to send you what the blurb is, but Amazon's got so many. You could just look
okay,
under Amazon, and they sell most of those. Yeah.
okay, good.
Or bring
So
somebody,
repeat.
my friends over to stay with you so they can bring you a deck.
I know you have to come visit so we can do that.
Deck,
Uh,
right?
would you name the two card sets again? That's all I need for you to do. So
Sure. One
would
is
you just repeat
ancestors
it?
and angels, and I could when we're done, I could go for a minute and get them and share with the more information. And the other is Ganesha.
Okay.
It's really good.
Well, I appreciate that. And one of the things, I might be able to include those in my references. So that would be really helpful.
Sure.
Um, I like the idea. I don't have an altar, but I do have space where I go that is my quiet place, and it's my space where it is. I loved when I was a kid, I loved to climb trees. Now, there's a problem about that if you're a kid, because then you may break something. But anyway, you know, but I was this adventurous kid, and I loved to climb trees, and we had trees in our yard. So one of the nice things is my bedroom is such that I'm literally looking out into the patio. And so I can see the plants and the cactus I've planted and all the other things. So it's very enjoyable, and I can also see that from the den I live. So in a way, that's kind of like my altar, because cactus is one of my most favorite things, having grown up in Odessa, in
Nice.
West Texas. Um,
And I
I
think
would go ahead.
just with what you reminded me of, nature is so important. So whether you're looking at it, or you have plants, or you have a way to move outside and to step in the grass and look at the sky, those things really, again, bring us into a calm place inside ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I love about your work, because I think that what you do is you ground us. And I used to go to sweat lodges and a number of other things, but I like the work you're doing now, because I think it really helps people to focus about what you're doing and things you do.
Right.
Why don't you give kind of a brief comment about what you did in the last two workshops you did, because I
It's
think it's
funny 'cause
important.
that's what I was just thinking of. I built a house in the Dominican Republic, basically because my godson and his parents live there. And we had all bought land together with the intention, with the mother of my godson, who's a friend, Lindsay, who to be able to do workshops. The house is in a town where the humpback whales come every winter. That's where they give birth and teach the babies how to breach and everything. So that's what I chose, because overlooking, if you look outside my window, you can see the bay and sometimes get to see the whales jump there. So it's fabulous. So in the last couple of workshops, the house got complete, and I've had two workshops there. And speaking of community, what we began to speak about, it's new for me because I'm new to build it there. But my Lindsay's husband, Ariel, is local, and it's a lot of indigenous people, and they live from community. They live from the land. So one of the wonderful things for the groups coming in, we got to weave in nature, both watching the whales, or if we were sharing, there was a place that we wanted to share our stories and let go of things. We went into a cave, and then we were right at a beach where there was sand, and we wrote in the sand what you wanted to release so the water could take it out. So I love the ability to take our issues or our work that we're doing with ourself, self-awareness, and integrate nature into it. And the other piece that's beautiful in the Dominican, and the people that I'm connected to are very big on their own community and extended family, and they have people who sing and work with the land. Like, we go out for a hike, and they would pick coconuts and open them so we could drink coconut milk right in the middle of being out there, and or chop down a pineapple from the land. Was wonderful, as a way to feed yourself and to be together. But the community, the men really struck me as amazing because they love their mothers, and there's a real caring. And my two groups happen to be women, not that I do all women groups, but these two happen to be. And several that came with some issues around relationships with men for themselves in their life, and they could not be kinder than to join us and make sure it was safe and do anything that we needed to have happen with joy, with the place, not wanting anything back, but the kindness of being able to hang out and to be supportive of us. So I'm seeing how that community developed and building community there as well. And the people that want to come back have already booked to bring groups and things because they love that extended community there, and they felt it was invaluable to feel that. So.
Thank you. And that's what I think is so powerful. I think one of the things that happens in our weekend experiences, we had to stop them for a while because of COVID, but we're going to do them again. And I think what is wonderful about it is we always choose a place that's very comfortable. And we have a place where people can process through their feelings safely and all kinds of things like that, and have support for doing that. And we also have lots of opportunity to have discussions in the larger group and get responses about what people are hearing and things they have on their own experiences. And what happens is those communities continue after the weekend because people begin to develop relationships from it, and they include themselves. They include themselves and include their new friends in their communities. So it's like an expansion of what is happening and what you're doing. See, I think we have become so constricted by all the hatefulness and the domination and kind of control issues that are going on now, that we constrict ourselves and cannot see the expansion process. And what you and I are doing with our communities is saying, expand yourself, expand opportunities, expand, and then you'll be in a different place because you'll have opportunities to talk to people that can bring you peace when you're not in that place. I want to shift now because you gave me some great articles, and you know me, I love looking at these articles and what they have to offer. And one of the things that struck me, and I hadn't thought about this word for a long time, which was equanimity. And I'd like to read you what this article said, and then I'd like for us to talk about it because I think it has such value. Equanimity is what frees us from these dynamics. We can learn to be present with emotions without falling into the extremes of overwhelm or denial. Equanimity is the state in which we can recognize our emotions like anger and even feel it full intensity, but also pay attention to choosing how we respond to a given feeling, thought, or circumstance. So I'd love to hear from you first. what you would mull over or share with us about that particular concept.
I think it's a practice that is really important to be able to feel all that you feel and know it, and be able to then choose how you're going to approach what it is you're feeling, and to be able to know what the feeling is and have enough of a witness to see what that is, which gets us to that equanimity place. And so I'm just thinking on what you're saying. And so going to the places of what feelings are important for you, and then the choice of how to approach that, I think, becomes really, really, really important.
Right. And I think that this is a common thing that I'm dealing with every day with any client I have,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's organizational or whether it's individuals or couples or partners or whatever. Because I think what happens is we don't establish the concept of equanimity in our lives. So when we get angry or disgusted or upset or dismayed, then we either want to run and deny that it even happened, or we go out there and we react like I used to, and then we create conflict. And what I liked about this definition that was given is we can come to a state of balance. And that's what I've learned in my recovery programs. The best thing I can do is to pause and then determine what I feel, what I think, and then how am I going to say that in a way that will support the person I'm talking with as well as myself. I don't want to be embarrassed anymore by my behavior and my
Right,
reactions, you know.
right, right.
And so I'm doing a lot. I may say something like, Shanti, and let me pause for a moment and mull that one over. That gives me time to say, what am I really feeling? What am I thinking? How do I want to deal with this? Or I might say to someone, let me mull that, let me consider that, and then I'll get back with you by 2 o'clock, or I'll get back with you tomorrow by so and so.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be very careful about naming when I'm going to get back with them, because if I don't do that, then I'm not giving them the clarity that I am committed to coming back and talking with them about it. And
Right.
one of the things that I think creates tremendous conflict in marriages and in partnerships is because people don't say when they're coming back when they're upset.
Right, right. They just leave. Yeah, right. Yeah,
They leave.
right. But what keeps coming to me while I'm listening to you is the work I did with Don Miguel Ruiz. I was an apprentice for 4 years with him. Is the whole concept of that we are all storytellers. That's what humans are, but that they're all stories. That, the only thing really authentic is our feelings. Everything else is a story. It's a story that we've been taught. It's a story we've heard. And so we love to share it, but none of it is really the truth. And
Right.
so what happens when you have a reaction to something is you're going into a story that you know, and an opinion that you know. And so to be able to see that they're all lies, none of it is really authentic except what that feeling is, and to go to that feeling place and then to take the time like you're saying, and also really important is to make the time and commitment to get back to that person, not to just say, okay, I hear that, I reacted, and leave, because then people are frustrated on that side. So
Well, and they don't know where we're going. And I think that everyone likes to have the opportunity to come to some kind of resolution.
right,
And resolutions sometimes take time because people have to process through what the thoughts are, their feelings, or anything else. Now, you and I've gotten to the place where we could process and talk and keep going because that's what we've learned in our lives.
right,
That's where we started with National Training Lab Institute, and that's our work is literally that.
right. I am
Another
grateful.
thing I
I'm
Go
grateful.
ahead.
I'm very grateful that I got to that in my 20s, to really start learning and getting a skill set that would help me to know that feelings are important and to process them. And by process means being able to interact and talk with others and speak and listen and have skills to be able to be an active listener, as well as to make the room to state what it is that you need to empower for yourself. That skill set was invaluable to have 50 years ago. It's amazing.
Right. Well, and I'll admit I was in my 30s. So, but thank God I went there. And so National Training Lab Institute was great for me. I don't know a lot about it now because I have been out for many years. But I think that it did bring me to a new set of awarenesses about what I was doing or not doing to be very constructive as I worked on myself. Now, that began it, but then I've done a lot of things like you have. I think another thing that you and I haven't, that we've always talked about is our purpose. My purpose in life is to be real and live in truth. So a lot of times people don't want to hear what I have to say. But in order for me to live my purpose, I'm real and I live in truth. So I will speak my truth of what it is. But the other thing that I think is important too is when I get really disturbed about something, I'll say my purpose. I want to be real and live in truth. And so then it grounds me and I stop, and that's part of the pause. The other thing that I do is I have 5 primary values that I live by. Now, my higher order value is social justice. It has been all my life. And I was an activist in the 1960s. So, I've been an activist all my life. But I think what I want is I want people to be, when I talk about social justice, I want people to be respected, to be appreciated, to for us to be able to find ways to have some commonality. And I think that happens through values. That's and even though you and I are more aligned in all the various things that we look at, whatever it is, I think values are important. So to me, my value of honesty and of being of service, of really committed to having a spiritual journey, to really appreciate diversity and its diverse points of view that I see. And then also being my higher order values, social justice. So another one of my values is risk taking, because I often have to risk take in order to talk with people about what I'm seeing. But when I work with people, I'm amazed at the transformations that can occur. And it's the work they do, but it's also the honesty and forthrightness that I have. So I'd love for you to talk about your values and or your purpose, because I think they align so easily.
Mm-hmm. So for me, integrity and authenticity are the top two. Coming from a place that I can really feel that I am aligned and at peace with myself, that where I came from, that and being truthful. Creativity is really important to me. Having the room, the time, whether it's being creative with an idea or crafts or artistic or doing that. Compassion is really important to me. And I think helping people know that they can, that life is going to bring pain, but it's a choice to suffer or not. And helping people take a look at that and figure out ways to work with that. That pain does come with this life in Earth school that we're in from the time that we're born till we die. But suffering does not have to happen. It's something that's learned
Right.
and that we make choices with. So those, as well as I believe it's important, I'm using the word balance, but the balance can change. It's a constant changing thing. It's not like there's a balance point and you stay at it. And back in that article you're talking about when they spoke about
Right.
that, but I think finding a way and it's each day it changes what the balance is, but finding a way, whether it's with food, people, exercise, concepts that you and also time to interact and time to be quiet, to really give yourself
Right.
some quiet time to, like, I will not after 8 o'clock talk to anybody on the phone. Done for the day. That's just, the phone is off, away, on quiet. I just need time to be unhooked from everybody and everything. So that helps me to get to balance.
Well, and I think what is when I listen to what your values are, I think one of the things, I'll just pick one, um, compassion. I think that my spiritual pathway has taught me how to be compassionate.
Mhm.
And I think people don't understand that if you look at it, con means two, and passion means you can have passion. So I think people misinterpret compassion and think I have to be nice and I have to be kind and all these things. But the word itself shows us that any feeling we have can be included.
Right.
And one of the things that struck me is there's someone I'm working with, and it's a real challenge because this person has never changed their behavior and lived in a very difficult situation. But one of the things that this individual said to me is, when you get angry with me, or when you express disgust or anger or irritation with what I'm doing, I start listening because I don't want you to be there. Now, I can't do anything about you and I can't change how you feel, but I can certainly listen to what you're telling me that I am doing that's not helpful.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so I think people don't understand that sometimes there's no negative or positive feelings. They think there are. They're feelings.
They're just feelings. Right. Right.
And truthfully, I think they're the most intuitive part of ourselves, Shanti.
I
And
agree. I agree. And I think that's where we get our ahas, and I know from my own life, that's what I lead from
yeah,
is knowing them, taking the time to understand them, identify, and that's the point of the beginning to whatever I'm creating next.
yeah. And, you know, I just know that the more I have appreciated feelings, the more today I connect at a much deeper level with people. People come to me sometimes and they just say, our intimacy is not at this level. And the first thing I know is it's focused on the wrong thing. It's focused on how we feel about each other, how we treat each other, how we do so many other things. It's not just sex. And so if you want to have a meaningful, intimate relationship with somebody, you have to have a lot of feelings and a lot of experiences and a lot of discussion,
Mm-hmm.
which may lead to having what you really want in your sexual life or any other aspects of your being.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, thank you. You use the word balance, and I'll admit I've had trouble with that, the word. But I think this article did something really beautiful because it used the kaleidoscope as an example, because the kaleidoscope may get off balance, but it still recenters itself. So what I think you're saying is, I view balance the way you defined it. I view balance as a way to recenter myself
Mm-hmm.
and ground myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really important. Some other things that you brought in the second article that I thought were really powerful were from the Dalai Lama. And I know that I've ever told you this, but I met the Dalai Lama at a gathering in 1983.
Wow.
And I mean, I will never forget that night, because I have never met anyone that was so grounded, so at peace. And I even get tingling feelings because there was such an essence to him, even at that younger age in 1983. So when I read the article and it ended with some points that I thought would be helpful to kind of summarize what we've done, and you're welcome to, I'm just going to read all of them, and then you're welcome to make any comments and we'll finish with that. Remind yourself daily that your motivation should be to alleviate suffering, not just your own, but that of all beings, including those with whom you disagree. Adopt a wider perspective, especially when feeling overwhelmed or powerless. Choose optimism as a foundational standpoint. Or recognize past successes, no matter how small. And regardless of what happens, never lose faith in humanity. I just thought they were wonderful. So I don't know what you want to say.
I think they're wonderful as well. I also was responding to when you met the Dalai Lama. I think that place of peace inside comes from a real comfort that you can identify your feelings and feel them and own them and be in them. And I think that peace really vibrates continuously outside when you allow yourself to really know that in yourself. So
thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I was thinking about, we've been talking about how to find the standing point where we stand. We've been talking about how to not lose faith in humanity because it's hard right now.
It is tough.
And yeah, so one of the things I think I'm doing in my podcast is I'm talking about the people that are standing firm with democracy and standing firm with the efforts to present a different point of view of what America is about. So I've enjoyed, I didn't know about a lot of these resources, and I'm searching more, and I am going to create a kind of a handout or a card or something that has a lot of these references on it for the sources. But I think what we're doing here is we're trying to be resources to people and say, it doesn't mean we don't get upset.
Right.
It means that we have each other. We have other people, lots of other communities we talk to, and we ground ourselves every day and live in the present. Because if I focused on what could happen in the future or what happened yesterday, I am wasting my time. I can do something about today.
Right. And I think it's not just the wasting the time. I think it's the feelings that come from that of helplessness, because they're the past and the future we're not really in charge of at all. And we are in charge of the present within ourselves. So there's always a feeling of helplessness around going to places other than the present.
Well, I appreciate immensely what we talked about today, and I'm going to end the recording.
Okay.
But I think I'm going to go listen to it again when I'm upset, because I know that somewhere we gave some kind of information that will help me stop spinning around. So I don't know about y'all.
Me too. Thank you. Thanks. It was fun. Really lovely.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's very